I followed Shinzhou for 5 years. On the day of the female official examination, he ruled in favor of my cousin, claiming there was an ink spot on my paper. Looking at that needlepoint-sized ink spot, my second uncle's family mocked me to the extreme. So this is how much the grand tutor cares for you. My cousin was especially smug. It seems I'm the one who has won Lord Shin's heart. He couldn't bear to let me lose just because I shed a few tears. I couldn't believe it and sought out Shinzhou for confirmation. He focused on reviewing the exam papers, not even lifting his head, his tone indifferent. You need to learn a lesson to correct your careless and spoiled nature. Heartbroken to the extreme, I had a huge argument with him and declared to cut all ties. Shinzhou didn't know that grandfather had already made his decision. If I couldn't become a female official, I would have to enter the palace to serve His Majesty, who had a preference for male companions. Later, I heard that the Grand Tutor, known for remaining unmoved even when facing a mountain collapse, submitted 13 memorials to the throne to confess his unfair grading. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. The noble ladies who participated in the examination had already dispersed from the Great Hall. Shinzhou only raised his head after organizing the test papers in his hands. His expression was calm and cold, carrying a hint of superiority. The court's selection of officials considers not only talent and learning but also character. And you are spoiled in nature, careless in writing, and soiled the test paper. Your loss is not unjust. Looking at him, I was overwhelmed by tremendous anger and grievance, my voice trembling. It's one thing that you always criticize me, but today is the female official examination. Do you know how important this is to me? So what? He sat formally at the head, interrupting my words without care. You need to learn a lesson to correct your careless and spoiled nature. Hearing this, my breath caught. I couldn't help but tear up. Nothing felt more absurd than this. Just to teach me a lesson? Shinzhou's tone remained unchanged, completely indifferent. Precisely. Otherwise, how could someone as unruly as you be fit to be a female official? I clutched the student jade tablet inscribed with my name at my waist, which had once been my hope of escaping family control. Now that hope was shattered, it seemed so laughable. I yanked it off and hurled it at Shinzhou. Fine, fine, fine. Since Grand Tutor Shin looks down on me so much, from now on, I, Du Lingyue, will no longer offend your eyes. The jade tablet slid off his brocade robe, fell to the ground, and shattered into pieces. Shinzhou looked at me expressionlessly, his gaze pausing on my reddened eyes for a moment before withdrawing. As you wish. I supported my swaying body and walked out of the great hall. The family carriage was still waiting outside, and Du Lingshan smugly admired my miserable state. Sister is truly useless, following the Grand Tutor for years without gaining his favor. Not receiving even the slightest preferential treatment. It seems I'm the one who has won Lord Shin's heart. He couldn't bear to let me lose just because I shed a few tears. I smiled self-mockingly, unable to argue. Second uncle, who had just left court, couldn't wait to watch the show and smiled at my father's troubled face. So this is how much Lord Shin cares for Lingyue. How pitiful that our Du family's eldest daughter wasted 5 years pursuing him. The officials and noble ladies who hadn't yet dispersed looked over with varying expressions, unable to resist whispering among themselves. Like a plaything, I was ridiculed and humiliated in public, stripped of all dignity. Father, ashamed of my incompetence, had already left with his face covered. Shinzhou passed by and naturally heard these words. He didn't spare me even half a glance, merely returned second uncle's greeting with a bow, then left as if nothing had happened. My cousin's sneering voice made my heart ache. I finally understood that Shinzhou was like thousand-year-old ice. No matter how much warmth I gave, I could never melt it. This is for the best. Now that Lingshan has become a female official, Lingyue should enter the palace. Grandfather's authoritative voice echoed in the hall. This was agreed upon long ago, between my cousin and me. Whichever one failed the exam would serve His Majesty in the palace. After everyone left, only our family remained in the room. Mother broke into tears, holding me as she wept. I will never let my daughter go to that place that devours people. Everyone knows His Majesty prefers men and stays away from women. If Lingyue marries into the palace, what hope could she have for the rest of her life? This would be the death of her. Father's face was cold as he berated angrily. It's this rebellious daughter's own incompetence. She used to write good essays. But at the crucial moment she couldn't even outperform the ignorant girl from the second branch. Hearing this, mother spoke with hatred. That girl has ill intentions. Who knows what methods she used to win? No, I must go find the grand tutor and request a re-examination of the papers. I stopped mother, forcing a smile worse than crying. Don't go. Shinjo said I was arrogant and careless, and rejected my essay because of a tiny ink spot. By the end, I couldn't hold back my tears. He deliberately made me lose to Du Lingshan. Shinjo came from a noble background, with refined features and exceptional talent. He became the top scholar before 20. And at that time, officials and nobles all sought to make him their son-in-law. On the day the top 3 scholars paraded through the streets, he was nearly buried in perfume sachets and handkerchiefs from noble ladies. Everyone was attracted to such a brilliant young man, and I was no exception. I wanted to be worthy of him, to be someone who could stand beside him, together forever. So I restrained my nature and buried myself in books. Later, when His Majesty opened selections for female officials, I was even more grateful that I had already studied hard for so long, able to grasp a better opportunity. After comforting mother, I dragged my tired body back to my room. Sitting before the mirror, I burned all the pouches I had embroidered and poetry collections I had copied for Shinjo over the years. The firelight reflected on my pale face, as if burning away 5 years of foolishness. Perhaps due to excessive grief that day, my personality changed dramatically. I became extremely quiet, no longer as lively as before. I was even able to focus on learning palace etiquette from the instructress. Grandfather was very pleased with this, and often privately instructed me to gain His Majesty's favor after entering the palace, to speak up for the family, and best of all to help promote the official positions of the male family members. How absurd that men's futures should rely on women's influence. They underestimated me. If I enter the palace, I certainly won't support this corrupt marquis household. But even though I sneered inwardly, I never objected outwardly. That day grandfather summoned me to his study, and on the corridor I ran into Shinjo, whom I hadn't seen for over a month. Unable to avoid him, I curtsied. The movement was meticulous and proper, exactly as the instructress had taught. Shinjo was slightly startled, his expression immediately softening. Ling Yue. I choked up for a moment. In the past 5 years, he rarely called my name so intimately. Now he said it naturally, no longer preaching about propriety and virtue. According to etiquette, Lord Shin should address me as Lady Du. My tone was emotionless. Perhaps I still resented him. I really didn't want to see him. Shinjo gave a light laugh, like a dignified gentleman, bright and clear as the sky after rain. Such proper etiquette is good, but you need not be so formal with me. Once I finish handling the female official examination matters, I'll have my mother come propose marriage. I looked at him in disbelief, wanting to laugh sarcastically. Propose marriage? You treated me coldly, rejected my essay so I couldn't become a female official, yet you have feelings for me? He leaned closer, making me reflexively step back, drawing another light laugh from him. That laugh carried early spring wind, bone-chillingly cold. I heard him say, "How can you be the madam of the Shin family if this temperament isn't tempered?" Mother observed the changes in me during these days, seeing me becoming more depressed each day. She asked grandfather for permission to let me go out under the pretext of purchasing dowry items. She even called my maternal cousin to accompany me shopping. Although staying in the mansion these days was indeed boring. But helplessly I couldn't lift my spirits. Even after going out, I didn't know what enjoyment to seek. My cousin treated me like his own sister. Knowing my situation, he felt terribly sorry for me. Some days ago, he and uncle had visited grandfather to persuade him not to send me into the palace. However, grandfather was solely focused on pursuing fame and fortune, and had already submitted the petition on the second day of the female official examination, leaving no room for change. My maternal uncle's family had always been good to me, and as soon as my cousin received mother's letter, he tried every way to cheer me up. Lingyue, let's go to the bookstore and buy some interesting tales. Weren't you always fond of these interesting storybooks? Even after entering the palace later, If you feel bored, it would be good to have something to read for entertainment. He carefully observed my expression and only relaxed when he saw me finally showing a slight smile. Don't worry, I will work hard in my career to be your support. I was somewhat stunned. My maternal grandfather's family had always treated me with kindness, and my relationship with my cousin had always been extremely good. But once when Shinjo caught us shopping together, his face turned cold, and though he said nothing in public, he scolded me in private. Men and women should maintain proper distance. You're about to come of age, if you still don't mind male-female boundaries. Not only will it affect both of your marriage prospects, but people will also criticize you for being frivolous. Those words were harsh, but I had long been accustomed to being compliant with Shinjo. I was also truly afraid of affecting my cousin's marriage prospects, as he said, and actually started keeping distance. Thinking about it now, my interactions with my cousin were normal. With no inappropriate behavior, what was there for people to criticize? Shinjo wasn't necessarily always right. I smiled in relief and casually picked up a few storybooks. Suddenly I heard someone say, "Lingyue?" Looking up, I saw Du Lingshan and Shinjo standing together, holding some books. Her pink dress matched well with his crimson official robe. Shinjo's gaze fell heavily on my cousin and me, the book in his grip becoming somewhat deformed. Du Lingshan discreetly glanced at everyone, her eyes rolling slightly, and put on an innocent smile. What a coincidence meeting you and cousin Shin shopping. It seems I'm being inconsiderate and disturbing you. While I was hesitating about what to say, I saw Shinjo pull her hand and pass her the books he was holding. Weren't you looking for some poetry copies? These are quite good. Du Lingshan's face turned red with embarrassment as she took the copies, her fair hand pulling at her cloud-patterned dress hem. I would also like to find some calligraphy copies. Would you be willing to lend some of your works for me to study? Shinjo gave an okay and led Du Lingshan away. The two got into a carriage and disappeared around the street corner. I shook my head and laughed, mocking my past self for revering Shinjo as the standard for years, yet never receiving his careful guidance. A few sweet and innocent words from Du Lingshan had softened his heart. Fortunately, I had already given up. When returning home in the evening, Mother said Du Lingshan had brought Shinjo back. Grandfather invited him to stay for dinner and wanted to have a few drinks with him. She was indignant. I used to think he was cold-hearted, but now I see he's blind and foolish, bewitched by such a person. I quickly comforted Mother. I was equally surprised, since when did he become so considerate? On my way back to my courtyard, I passed through the garden. There stood Shinjo beside the rockery, his gaze fixed deeply on me, as if he had been waiting for a long time. Du Lingyue, don't you have anything to say to me? What should I say? I remained silent. Back when I liked him, I would chirp endlessly about even the smallest things around him. But now I'm too tired, and in his presence, I no longer have any desire to share anything. Besides, what's the point of saying anything? Should I tell him about how our marquis family is declining? How grandfather was blinded by power and favored the second uncle whose official position is higher than father's? So I could only rely on the female official examination to fight for an opportunity? Or should I tell him how because of his bias, I lost my qualification to become a female official, and thus was treated as a dispensable piece by the family, thrown into the deep palace to compete for the unpredictable emperor's favor? Seeing my silence, he spoke in a cold tone. Today you were inappropriately intimate with other men, reading those trashy books. Where are your noble lady manners? His lecturing appearance was utterly ridiculous. My cousin and I never crossed any boundaries. Yet he and Du Lingshan were the ones pulling and tugging at each other today. Truly a case of a guilty person accusing others first. I never noticed before how self-righteous and hypocritical he was. I couldn't be bothered to engage, just pulled my lips into a perfunctory smile. Lord Shin's teachings are correct. I need to rest now, please make yourself at home. He nodded with satisfaction, about to say something more when a servant's voice called him to dinner from afar. I gave a cursory curtsy and walked past him without looking back. Shinjo ate dinner distractedly. Du Lingyue's current obedient demeanor made him inexplicably uneasy. Fortunately, he had already convinced his mother to propose marriage, and today's visit was to give the Marquis family advance notice. The old marquis had long wanted to form ties with Shinjo. Seeing the usually stern Grand Tutor Shin being so humble and polite, he couldn't help but drink a few more cups. By the time his face was flushed red with alcohol, he could barely hear what Shinjo was saying. He only caught phrases like propose marriage and ask for hand in marriage. And thinking about how he had personally escorted his granddaughter home, naturally assumed he wanted to propose to Du Lingshan. So without asking for details, he readily agreed. After the feast, Shinjo returned home with the smell of alcohol, but couldn't sleep at all. Though everything was settled with the old marquis, he still felt unsettled. Du Lingyue had tempered her personality as he requested, yet he felt no joy about it. After much thought, he figured he probably wasn't used to her being so quiet. He shook his head with a smile, becoming more determined to propose soon. Early the next morning, grandfather publicly announced that Shinjo wanted to marry Du Lingshan. Second uncle's family was overjoyed at the news, and Du Lingshan's eyes reddened with happy tears. Lingshan also has feelings for Lord Shin. I unconsciously clenched my fingers, silently listening to grandfather's warnings. Whatever feelings you had for Grand Tutor Shin before, now that he's about to marry your sister and you're entering the palace soon, stay away from him. If I find out you've harbored any inappropriate thoughts and disrupted your sister's marriage, don't blame me for being harsh. I ignored Du Lingshan's provocative gaze and curved my lips indifferently. Grandfather is right, Lingyue will definitely stay far away from Lord Shin. Just as I finished speaking, a servant came to report that Lady Shin had brought Shinjo to propose marriage. Du Lingshan excitedly stood up, shyly supporting grandfather to welcome them. I followed behind with my head lowered, trying to minimize my presence as much as possible. However, after the two families exchanged birth charts, Shinjo smiled and walked towards me. Lingyue, would early autumn be good for the wedding? You won't be too hot in the wedding dress then. With these words, the previously lively atmosphere instantly turned cold. Grandfather was shocked, his teacup falling to the ground with a bang. You want to marry Lingyue? Shinjo looked puzzled and smiled at me. Indeed, Lingyue and I have shared years of affection. If I don't marry her, who else would I marry? Everyone exchanged glances upon hearing this. And Du Lingshan's eyes were now genuinely red with tears. The room fell silent, the joyous atmosphere dissipated, with only mother's repeated sighs remaining. Shinjo's mother thoughtfully opened the marriage document. And upon seeing Du Lingshan's name on it, she forced a smile and said, "The old marquis must have brought the wrong marriage document. Fortunately, we discovered it in time. Please quickly bring the eldest daughter's document so we can proceed with this union." At these words, grandfather avoided eye contact. Second uncle was humiliated, and Du Lingshan's makeup was ruined by tears. No one responded. The scene was quite ridiculous, and I couldn't help but laugh. How could I possibly marry Lord Shin? How could I provide a marriage document? Shinjo snatched the document, and after seeing the name clearly, threw it away as if it were burning hot. His expression darkened. What is the meaning of this? What meaning? Mother sneered. You should ask yourself. If you hadn't shown mercy to Du Lingshan and judged the examination unfairly, how could Lingyue have failed to become a female official and be sent to serve His Majesty in the palace by her grandfather? My poor daughter, her sincere heart was trampled upon, and now she must enter that people-devouring deep palace. Who knows when I'll see her again? Shinjo's face turned pale, looking extremely pained. Lingyue, why didn't you tell me? I supported mother while looking at him with a half-smile. Didn't Lord Shin say he wanted to teach me a lesson, to correct my careless and spoiled nature? Now I've changed. I suppose His Majesty will also like my obedient demeanor in the palace. Shinjo's eyes instantly turned red. At that time, I didn't know your situation was so difficult. I thought you were too sharp-tongued at the academy, prone to arrogance. With such a personality, you wouldn't make a suitable madam in the Shin family. So I just wanted to temper your spirit. Plus, Du Lingshan deceived me, saying if she failed, her family would send her to be the old prince's concubine, and that she'd rather die than face that fate, so I sneered. Lord Shin's compassion for my sister is truly generous. Willing to let his beloved fail the exam to help her. Now good deeds are rewarded, she has devoted her heart to you, why not marry her? Satisfied seeing him frozen in place, I pointed behind him. I heard that back then, when Gu Lingshan shed just a few tears, Lord Shen couldn't bear to let her fail. Now her tears are far more than just a few drops. Shouldn't you hurry to comfort her? Emotions surged in Shinzhou's eyes, looking wounded. Why must you say such things to hurt my heart? If she weren't your sister, I wouldn't have given her a second glance. He appeared to have truly fallen deeply in love with me. I pursued him for 5 years while he remained indifferent. Now after forcing me to enter the palace, Shinzhou actually claims he'll marry no one but me. Absurd. I avoided his attempt to grab my hand. With a cold face full of disgust. Lord Shin, please don't come too close. Grandfather said to keep my distance from you, or else I'll be punished. Grandfather awkwardly stepped forward with an ingratiating smile. I didn't want to watch this farce anymore, so I pulled mother away. Later, the doorman said that Shinzhou and his mother left with grim expressions. Grandfather politely saw them off, then turned around and slapped Du Lingshan's face until it was swollen. You wretched thing, if it weren't for your scheming, Shinzhou would have been our Du family's son-in-law. You made him unable to marry Ling Yue, how could he let you off? By tomorrow, your reputation will be ruined throughout the capital. And it will implicate the entire Marquis Manor. Sure enough, early the next day, rumors spread through the capital. That Grand Tutor Shen, who remained unfazed even when facing a mountain collapse, submitted a memorial to the throne overnight, criticizing his own oversight in grading papers, explicitly stating that the Du family's second daughter Du Lingshan lacked both talent and virtue, unworthy of an official position, and begged His Majesty to re-examine. In an instant, Du Lingshan's name spread throughout the capital. Everyone who mentioned her spoke with contempt and mockery. Du Lingshan was mortified to the point of wanting to die. Her father claimed illness and didn't attend court. Even her brother from the same mother had to take leave from the academy due to constant ridicule. While rumors in the capital were at their height, His Majesty issued another decree at this time, sending Shinzhou to Province J to thoroughly investigate a case of examination fraud. As he was about to leave the capital, the day of my entry into the palace drew closer. Shinzhou's eyes turned red as he submitted 13 memorials, all of which sank like stones in the sea. I knew clearly that Shinzhou calculated that if I held an official position, I wouldn't need to enter the imperial harem. But his calculations went wrong. When I received the policy essay marked with vermilion from the teaching matron, I knew His Majesty wouldn't approve any memorials before my palace entry. The second day after Shinzhou left for Province J, His Majesty summoned me to the palace. The new Emperor Wei Jing had been on the throne less than a year. Rumors said he was bloodthirsty and fierce, showing no interest in women. Yet now he sat informally on the stone steps before me, looking like a rogue. He took the policy essay from my hands and raised his eyebrows with a slight smile. I heard that on the day of the female official examination, among the papers graded by the Grand Tutor, there was one essay with unique insights that was rejected due to a pinhole-sized ink spot. Curious, I took a look at it, and indeed, such writing shouldn't have been rejected. However, the next day your grandfather submitted a memorial requesting to send you into the palace to serve me. I lowered my gaze to the ground, not responding. Wei Jing smiled and continued speaking to himself. The noble families of the capital mostly indulge in pleasure and don't strive for progress. But they're deeply entrenched, like rotten tree roots. This long-standing illness has caused customs to decay, preventing new saplings from growing. Would you like to dig out these rotten roots? I suddenly raised my head to see Wei Jing's intense gaze as he spoke persuasively. With your talent, you shouldn't be buried in the inner palace. Before, you struggled helplessly in the Marquis Manor with no choices, but now, I can give you an opportunity to do this together with me. Then, you will no longer be someone's daughter, but official Du, or even, Prime Minister Du. These words were like a hurricane, clearing away all the gloomy haze in my heart, igniting a fierce fire instead. I bowed and knelt on the ground. I obey your Majesty's command. Wei Jing appointed me as noble consort, making me the leader of the inner palace. As the only consort in the current emperor's harem, and seemingly deeply favored, everyone rushed to curry favor with me at once. The Du family's status rose accordingly, becoming unmatched in influence. Father became much more assertive at home, and grandfather even carried himself as imperial kin. I turned a deaf ear to all this, only hosting flower appreciation banquets every few days, gathering noble relatives from the capital. At every banquet, the attendees would inevitably split into two factions: the new nobility who gained positions through imperial examinations, and the aristocratic families who inherited their titles through generations. Most of the wealth and resources in the empire were controlled by the latter group. The problem lies not in scarcity but in inequality. If this continued, it would surely lead to unrest. The palace maids and eunuchs serving at these banquets were all my informants. They would catch every important detail from the ladies' conversations, and deduce the male family members' factions from their clearly divided relationships. I would then organize all this information by category and report it to Wei Jing. However, while this method was useful, it was too slow to show results. Wei Jing looked up from a pile of memorials and gave me an amused look. Throughout history, reforms of the imperial court have never been accomplished overnight. How fast do you expect it to be? I shyly averted my gaze. These days spent with Wei Jing were enough for me to understand that he wasn't the tyrant people claimed him to be. He was just decisive in his actions. As for the rumors about his male favorites, there seemed to be some truth to that. That young general who had fought alongside him on battlefields for many years. Their relationship was indeed unusual. For instance, right now, Wei Jing was bent over his desk while Lin Qing stood clutching his sword, watching him without blinking. Weapons weren't normally allowed in the inner palace, but Wei Jing had granted Lin Qing many special privileges. I had to admit, the cold and fierce young general and the calculating young emperor did make for a good romantic pairing, just like in the novels. I was lost in thought, planning to ask my maternal aunt to have my cousin send me more romance novels for the next flower banquet. Wei Jing noticed my wandering gaze and casually tossed over a memorial, asking somewhat awkwardly, "What are you thinking about? You're smiling so strangely." I was startled back to reality and glared at him angrily. The culprit laughed. "You don't put on airs anymore, you've grown quite bold." I perfunctorily gave a bow and replied with a fake smile. "Thank you for your Majesty's undue praise." Strangely enough, after getting past the initial unfamiliarity, I found myself unafraid of Wei Jing and had an unexpected trust in him. 2 months after Xinzhou went to Province J, he brought back news that could shock the entire court. In this imperial examination, more than 80 officials were involved in cheating, many of whom were important ministers of the court. After receiving the confidential letter, Wei Jing sat alone for a long time. Until it got dark, only his silhouette could be seen. I walked over with a candlestick, and my eyes inadvertently swept over the list of names. A familiar name on it made my face turn pale instantly. Wei Jing's gaze was deep, his tone revealing neither joy nor anger. "Tell me, what should I do? The imperial examination system is fundamental to the nation. Without severe punishment, it won't be enough to deter the court." "I thought you would plead for him." I closed my eyes and kowtowed. "I only beg your Majesty not to implicate my maternal uncle and aunt." My heart was bleeding with pain. I never thought my maternal cousin's talk of working hard in his official career meant colluding with others to control the imperial examinations. If the court remains controlled by privileged families for long, what hope is there for scholars from humble backgrounds? If this continues, the nation will be in danger. After that day, I fell ill. The imperial physician said it was due to emotional distress and prescribed 2 doses of medicine, instructing me to rest well. During my recovery, many people came to visit. Wei Jing came several times, but I refused him entry, using the excuse of not wanting to spread my illness. Actually, it was because I felt ashamed. I had spoken repeatedly about helping him reform the court, yet I couldn't even keep watch over those closest to me. Perhaps because I looked so unwell, rumors spread that I was terminally ill. Grandfather became anxious upon hearing this and hurriedly requested to enter the palace. Wanting to get news from him, I allowed them in. To my surprise, he brought Du Lingshan, and his words suggested he worried I had lost favor and wanted to send another girl in. Du Lingshan was also foolish, suddenly changing from her previous meekness, serving tea while calling me sister. When she saw Wei Jing enter, her eyes practically stuck to him. I was both angry and amused, taking a sip of tea and coughing several times. Since when could my noble consort make such decisions? Grandfather, having been away from court for years, knelt down stumbling over his words. Wei Jing smiled and helped him up, then immediately called guards to take them away for punishment. The noble consort can indeed make decisions for me. But your another granddaughter is too ugly and hurts my eyes. I silently pulled the blanket over my head. Sigh, what an embarrassing bunch of relatives. Wei Jing acted as if nothing had happened and pulled down my blanket. It's natural for people to pursue fame and fortune. Today it's someone close to you, tomorrow it could be someone close to me. What you need to do is try your best to set things right. Why feel ashamed and waste so much time? Deeply moved, I struggled to sit up in bed. Wei Jing was right, why punish myself for others' mistakes? When Xinzhou returned with all the evidence at the end of the month, Wei Jing and I had already figured out the situation of most officials. As he said, the kinship relationships were intertwined, and most corrupt officials weren't even doing it for their own families. They were just caught in this web with no way to break free. However, pulling one thread would affect everything. We couldn't punish more than half the court officials at once. The law wouldn't work against so many people, and we wouldn't be able to cure the deep-rooted problems. Wei Jing deliberately released some ambiguous evidence, leading them to be suspicious of each other. Everyone wanted to be the only one who knew the truth, eager to crush their opponents. After several high officials were imprisoned on other charges, the rest finally sensed something was wrong. They grew restless and began plotting in secret. We needed an opportunity to catch them all at once. So, the flower viewing banquet was held again. This time it was especially grand, inviting not just the ladies but also court officials. Xinzhou was among those invited. It had been nearly half a year since I last saw him. He had lost a lot of weight. As if recovering from a serious illness, his official robes hanging loose on his frame. Seeing me staring at Xinzhou, Wei Jing's hand paused while holding his wine cup, his eyes swirling with complex emotions I couldn't understand. I heard you pursued Grand Tutorshin for many years? I withdrew my gaze, lowering my eyes. That's all ancient history now. This man Xinzhou. Wei Jing put down his wine cup, his fingers lightly tapping the table. He seems cold but is actually arrogant. Pursuing someone like that would be exhausting. Bringing up the past now stirred no waves in my heart. Looking at Xinzhou just now, I was merely curious how he had become so ghostly thin. If he had looked like this back when he used to ride through the streets, he probably wouldn't have stirred up so many noble ladies' hearts. Today, Your Majesty still has leisure to speak ill of others. Wei Jing choked at my retort. Rarely seeing him at a loss for words, I felt quite pleased. Halfway through the banquet, I got up to change clothes. Passing through the corridor back to the main hall, Xinzhou blocked my path again. Ling Yue, I regret it. I kept my face cold, my tone emotionless. Grand Tutorshin, you overstep. He stared at me for a long time, a tear rolling down his cheek. I know your temperament, you wouldn't willingly stay in this palace. If you're willing, I'll use the merit from this investigation to exchange for your freedom from His Majesty. Please, Ling Yue, give me another chance to make it up to you. I kept my face expressionless, watching him presume too much. Xinzhou, do you really understand me? You say you care for me, but you never knew what I wanted. Back then I desperately wanted to become a female official to climb out of the Marquis Manor's quagmire, not to marry you. Yet you easily destroyed all my efforts. And now, you presume again that I don't want to stay in the palace and want to take me out. Xinzhou, I am a living person, not an object that you can shape however you want. Xinzhou's lips trembled, looking somewhat pitiful. No, it's not like that. I just wanted you to become better, I never meant to hurt you. I looked at him silently. Your presumptuous thoughts have caused me so much suffering. If you really care for my well-being, then from now on, stop pursuing me. Not seeing you would make me much happier. Halfway through the banquet, my tightly strung nerves were starting to feel fatigued. Wei Jing patted my hand. Should I have the palace maids escort you back? I shook my head. After trying so hard for so long, I couldn't startle the snake at the final moment. Just as I decided to drink some strong tea to stay alert, chaos suddenly erupted. Countless assassins in black clothing emerged, striking ruthlessly. Clearly expendable agents willing to die for their cause. To draw out the snakes, not many imperial guards had been stationed in the Great Hall, and they were temporarily overwhelmed. Lin Qing quickly brought reinforcements. But in a moment of carelessness, a hidden weapon came flying straight at me. It was too fast for me to dodge. Just as I thought I would die, a figure rushed out to shield me from the weapon. Wei Zhang's imperial yellow robes were stained with shocking bright blood as I frantically supported him. "Doctor! Quick, call the imperial physician." The Great Hall was in chaos as all the conspirators were arrested and sent to the imperial prison. I stood by the bed, watching as Wei Zhang drank his medicine and lay down weakly. "Your Majesty, it's just a scratch, there's no need to." Meeting Wei Zhang's reproachful gaze, I swallowed the rest of my words. Fortunately, the weapon wasn't poisoned. And Wei Zhang had been wearing golden thread armor, so it was just a false alarm. "Ungrateful girl, who do you think I did this for?" I sheepishly fell silent. "Your Majesty saved my life, I have no way to repay such grace." "Then marry me." Wei Zhang's ears turned red as he turned away, refusing to look at me. Even I, dense as I was, could tell he had feelings for me. My first reaction wasn't embarrassment, but rather surprise. "You actually like women? Then what about you and General Lin?" Wei Zhang threw a pillow at me, driving me out of the imperial chambers. "Well, a general's duty is to protect the emperor. How could they protect without watching closely at all times?" All the implicated officials were sent to imperial prison. Besides the main culprits who were executed and had their property confiscated, the rest were stripped of rank and their family assets seized. With 3 generations banned from the imperial examinations. Outsiders called the emperor merciful. But for those who had tasted power, watching helplessly as their families declined was worse than death. Even their descendants were affected, becoming lower than poor scholars, likely only able to survive through manual labor. Thus concluded the imperial examination fraud case. The noble families were mostly eliminated, with the survivors no longer wielding much influence. Fortunately, my grandfather was too incompetent for anyone to bother with, so he wasn't implicated. But with no one left to support the family name, the marquis manor gradually declined. Wei Zhang later rewarded achievements, allowing me to establish my own household and granting me a manor and assets. As for himself, having won both popular support and seized great wealth, he was the biggest winner. Xinzhou's 13 memorials were finally approved. New imperial examinations were held to select female officials. After overseeing this selection, he requested to resign. It was said he was depressed and his health had deteriorated. Wei Zhang approved it. But I paid no attention to these matters, as my name was posted at the top of the list in this selection. From then on, I entered court service as a woman in my own right, beginning my own life path. Though every night brought some annoyances. Wei Zhang would sneak out of the palace and shamelessly cling to my bed. "Have my heir soon, I want to retire." Retire? What a strange notion, how could anyone not love working? I still wanted to become the first female prime minister.